Hello, guys.
Welcome. Yeah, there you go. Let's everybody fix our hair.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
It's a beauty show after all. And we are a couple of beauty. All right. So we're trying to keep these shows short. So I'm gonna get right to it. And I have hundreds of questions for you about the upcoming first people's first Congress of People's Deputies of Russia. So yeah, it's we're learning. So here's what I want to know. Was this always part of your plan, or did this idea of holding this Congress just evolve given the circumstances around us?
It's a good question. And also, you would be the first to me. That's inside story. So I was thinking for already quite a while about the alternative center of legitimacy. And this trail of thought was originated in the sanctions policies, because one of the problems is that Russia um, has a lot of frozen assets in the West. And we are talking right now about as much as 400 billion US. And they could be used for Ukraine
Yes.
to restore the damaged infrastructure. And that's especially important now when, the West steadily supplies different ammunition. But right now, there are certain things that need to be just constructed, like different power equipment for the power plants, and this kind of things.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and it's all needs funding, which is very slow to arrive from the West. So I was coming from that idea that it's quite obvious that to use these funds to finance Ukrainian restoration, to confiscate those funds would require a lot of court decisions. And that's painfully slow. That can take a decade.
Yes.
And the money is needed now. And I was consulting with different people who are in charge of the sanctions policies internationally, in the US, in UK, in Europe, and they all were telling me more or less the same thing. We cannot make this decision without Russia. Was only with courts. But you know what? If there would be some other Russians who
Mm.
would be telling us, let's do this and that, we may listen to them. And then let Putin argue whether they had the authority to say this. But, we will decide whom to listen to.
Mm.
And I was coming to the idea, so we probably need to have this group of Russians, but they need to have a legitimate representation of Russia. And how that's possible if in Russia for quite a while there were no elections.
Yes.
And my original idea was that actually there are two deputies in Russia. It's myself and Gennady Gudkov, whose mandate was terminated prematurely. We got our mandate through the elections that were recognized as fair, and they were recognized by the international community, by international observers. But at the same time, they were terminated prematurely, so they didn't expire, but they were terminated.
Oh.
And yes, maybe that's the potential source of legitimacy if our mandate was never ended.
Mm.
And then I started talking to different people. But during my last trip to Europe, I met with certain Lithuanian officials, and they gave me the idea, because there is so-called Forum Free Russia, which is organized by Gary Kasparov and which is regularly being conducted in Vilnius, in Lithuania capital. And they kind of there is a growing disappointment because it's a nice congress, nice convention, nice forum, but it's going nowhere, so people meet, but no decisions and no tangible results of those forums. And they were saying, maybe you would mm, uh, grow polls and make one step further.
I want to make an observation. I don't think you needed to grow balls. I think the balls were already.
Yeah, so and that's how we came to this idea to invite all the different deputies who have this mandate, yeah, in different time, but at the same time, that's a real source of legitimacy. And we started to look for a place. Obviously, the most interesting place for us would have been Ukraine, but to get inside Ukraine for Russians right now, it's a great pain and no flights, and then they with 100% certainty would not be able to come back to Russia. So it's many different reasons why Ukraine is not so good. But the second best in this situation is Poland, which is next door and which doesn't have any Russia-related events. But Polish authorities are very active in supporting Ukraine. They have a vested interest to defend against potential Putin's aggression. They're very helping to Ukraine. And we decided that would be the best place to do it.
So I'm going to make an observation here and tell me if it makes sense to you. Um, you know, you and I spent a lot of time talking and chatting because we wrote a book. You know, essentially, I took your book and helped form it for the
Yes.
Western audience, right? So it's
So
a lot of investment of time, a lot of
it's
questions.
it's you and Google Translate who wrote the book, and I was just
Well, you invested way
bringing a
more.
mess around it.
I think you invested way more time than you thought you were going to at the beginning. But in the end, I think we created a very good product, let's just say, or message. But I don't know if you remember this, but many times over WhatsApp, and often it was late in the night for you or late in the night for me. And then when we were in DC, I kept asking you over and over again because you would say, there's going to be this interim government. And then when Putin's gone, it's gonna, it's gonna become the government. And I don't know if you remember how many times I said to you, how is that going to happen? And we addressed this, I think, in a very honest way in the book. I'm not going to give it away. You got to read the damn thing if you want to find out. But when I heard about the Congress, this light bulb went off in my head because I realized you found a way to create that interim government in front of the public. So now
Yes.
Russians are going to get used to it. The rest of the world is going to get used to it. You as the members of the Congress are going to be known. And so when Putin is gone, obviously you're the interim government. Your Congress, your colleagues have been prepping the world for this, including Russians, so that there's no confusion about it or having to explain it. It's just a natural evolution of what you're beginning on November 4th.
Well, there would be a lot of competition,
I'm sure there will be.
and that's why I think what is very important is that we are not just the only opposition center who is actually thinking about legitimacy and doing things about legitimacy, but we're also thinking about the military force to support the
Mm,
legitimacy
mm.
and the power structures to support it. And we have now military units which are fighting alongside with Ukrainian army in Ukraine, and that's obviously the best training in fighting. And
Well, What a terrible place to lose Ilya. Okay, he's back. Can't hear you. Lost sound.
That's bad.
Okay. Whoops. All right. Well, this may be this may be a heck of a tease for tomorrow's show. I think let's just wrap it up here. You know, we said this was going to be a 5 or 10 minute show. It's been about 10 minutes. So let me talk for a few minutes and we'll pick up this story. Clearly an incredibly important story. We're watching history unfold in front of us. And you know, how exciting is it to hear Ilya describing how this came to be? I just I'm so invested in this and I know you are as well. It is so exciting for me to see this happening in a way that is full of transparency and the word he used, legitimacy. And you can begin to see, and we'll get more details tomorrow about how this all makes sense and brings this sense of what's the word I want of 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 oh gosh, there's a word I can't think of what it is, but it you can see how the world can rally behind what they're doing so that when Putin is gone, or even to motivate that Putin be gone, because now it's not a black hole and a mystery. There's a body of people with legitimacy who are ready to step in and fill those roles. So we'll pick that up tomorrow.